Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 210 of the It's Obvious podcast. My name's GarrettDrake. I'm joined online by Jacob Alka. We have just wrapped episode 8 of Ask IOG. It should be out in the wild by now. Jacob, I had a grand old time answering some community questions with you, but the rest of the day is upon us. We have just survived the latest week of our lives. What'd you get up to?
Nothing exciting. Shocker. My life is boring, but I had fun in my own way. How about you?
And what ways would that be, Jacob?
Just playing a game that I'm really enjoying right now. Having some good food. Watching some interesting YouTube videos. Finished Stranger Things. I think I might have talked about that last week, though. But I did finish Stranger Things. Very
Glad
good.
to hear it.
Very good season. Actually,
Nice.
I don't like it as much as the first season, which is...
I think you mentioned that, Jacob.
Okay, but yeah.
You almost mentioned your car breaking down again. And
I almost mentioned... Oh, yeah.
It's okay. I repeat myself quite often as well.
Yeah, it's we do a lot of these.
I'm glad you had a pretty fun week in your own way, at least. I look forward to hearing about Fire Emblem. I know you have a lot to say about that.
I'm looking forward to talking about it.
I'm sure, Jacob. A lot of people seem to be thoroughly enjoying it. And of course, the envy in me is growing rapidly.
I'm sorry. I could not talk about it if you want.
My Switch is forever upon the skies, forever up above, unfortunately. So,
well, I haven't seen that person online, so they must have changed your profile if they're using
must have. That or it got tossed.
Yeah.
Who knows? But Jacob, I had a pretty good week myself. I have a couple relatively interesting stories among the games I played this week. But aside from that, Jacob, why don't you just go on a tangent? Not really a tangent, but just go on a spiel about Fire Emblem. I'm all ears, my friend.
Sure. So that is basically all I played this week. Didn't touch Octopath and I played a couple nights with Confucius Say from our community in Apex, but I played maybe a total of 2.5 hours the whole week because my main focus this week was Fire Emblem. And I raved a little bit about the game last week, and I'm just going to continue on top of that this week because I love this game. It is right up there in my game of the year already with Kingdom Hearts 3 and Play. I just said Play Apex because that's the Twitter handle. I'm used to saying Play Apex on my Twitter, but just Apex Legends. Those 3 games right now, including Fire Emblem, are right up there. And it's going to be a very difficult decision as to what I'm going to pick. And we still have Star Wars coming out. We got Doom coming out. And dude, we got a busy year ahead of us. At the beginning of this year, I thought it was going to kind of be like a down year because just looking at it, like I knew Cyberpunk wasn't going to hit this year and a couple other anticipated games that I was really looking forward to were going to miss 2019. But just like all the years prior, this is a jam-packed year with lots of great games. But going back to Fire Emblem, this game is like my dream. Not only have I learned that I secretly really liked tactical like combat like in this game, like the moving of the units and having to strategically think where to place your units so that they're out of harm when you don't want them to be attacked, or where you want to put your frontline units ahead of like your healers or your archeries because you don't want them to take damage and die. That's another thing. I'm playing on classic mode, which I think I mentioned last week. And if your characters die, they can very well they're dead. Like it's permadeath. But there's a mechanic that lets you rewind time in the game, which is nice. I've used it a couple times when I was early on playing because I didn't necessarily know what I was doing and everything was new to me. But now I'm at the point where I haven't really had anyone die. So that's good. Right now I'm working through a dungeon in chapter 6. I guess it's called a dungeon. It's like every month in the calendar school year, Garrett, because you're teaching at a monastery, but at the end of the month, you have like a story quest that you're kind of building up towards through the whole month. And it's kind of how you progress the story through the game. And so right now I'm trying to take on this Death Knight character, and he stole someone of importance to the school or the kingdom, I guess.
I believe that's called kidnapping, Jacob.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes. Stole someone. But yeah, I'm trying to go find them and defeat this guy. And what's fun about this guy is that if you kill him, he gives you access to a new class that certain characters can become through certification exams. And one of them is called the Dark Mage. And I want one of my characters to become a Dark Mage. So I've held off of upgrading his class because I want to get this item that this Death Knight drops so that this guy can become a Dark Mage, which is cool. And that's just like one little small thing of like how in depth the character classes are, because not only do they all have different abilities and stuff, and they all play a different way, but you can max out the experience for that class by just doing combat or playing the game and whatnot, and through relationships and whatnot, and you get like passive buffs, like passive abilities once you max out that experience bar, which is pretty beneficial for your character, because even when you change classes, you keep that passive ability that you got. So it like ranges from anything from like 5 HP to like more damage on an ability, stuff like that, which is like worth grinding for if you're super serious about, you know, min-maxing your characters, which I don't know if I necessarily need to be, because I am playing on normal, so it's not necessarily a hard game. But I think in my next playthrough, I'll really I do like intend to play this game through again. And I do intend to bump that difficulty up and see if I can handle the harder difficulty. Because while the game is still fun, it is a little easy at the point where I've gotten to now. Especially since I've kind of learned all the systems and whatnot. But continuing from what I said last week, the relationships in this game are mind-blowingly good. Like, I've never thought in a million years I would care about these random, you know, multicolored haired people in this monastery / church school setting to just really grab a hold of me. Like, each one is so compelling, and like each one I want to learn more about, and I have been through the social interactions. And you know, usually like you get a couple every week, but like once you finish your teaching for the week, students will come up to your desk and they'll ask you questions, and if you say something that they like, your relationship status will go up. You'll get points for that. If you don't say what they like, you know, it's not like a bad thing. Like, you don't lose anything, but you just slow your progression with them. And then you can like, and there's a stupid thing called tea parties, Garrett, where it's basically like a little dating sim. Like, you sit down, like you tell them to have a sip of tea, and then you like try to guess what topics they're interested in, which you can learn through by just reading their bios. Like, it takes a second, and you ask them things that they're interested in. If they like what you say, you know, you get points for it. If you don't, you know, they get all bummed out and they like make a frowny face. But once you like this goes into like how you're going to be picking one person to have a relationship with at the end of the game. So you're like constantly, I'm trying to, like, right now I think I want to spend my time with Edelgard, and she's like the head of the house that I chose, the Black Eagles. So I'm trying to like at least every time I try to explore the monastery, I try to make sure that I have a tea party with her, just to make sure I put those brownie points in for the end of the game. And from what I've heard, the story in this game, like once you get past the school part, because the school part's only a portion of the game, because I think you go for a certain amount of time, and then there's a time jump because of some event that happens, and I don't know what that is yet. Others that have played farther in the game know. But there is like a 5-year time jump or something once you get to a certain point. And then the game really opens up into like a war setting, more so than like a professor teaching your students kind of thing. So I'm not sure what all that's about yet, but I'm definitely excited to explore it, because I've heard that the game gets really juicy at that point from people in the Discord. And I'm definitely excited to check that out. And you would think doing the same systems in the game, like in the monastery, would get old after a while, but what's great is that every month the dialogue options change between the people that you like, all the students and all the faculty in the school. Like, every month you go and they have something new to say, and you can go do all that stuff. You can go fishing every day. You can go plant flowers every day, Garrett. You can cultivate them. You can go you can compete in tournaments that your students can compete in at the school, and you can win rewards like weapons and stuff for winning. There's just so much to this game. Like, it's not like you're actually you're not like necessarily doing these activities, but you're watching them take place before your characters, and sometimes it's a little overwhelming with how much is going on. But at the same time, like, I'm enjoying how long it takes to fully talk to everyone in the school on a given day, and also doing all these activities that are directly impacting my team and the growth of my characters. So it's just, I'm loving it. Like, it's like a simulator's dream. And
I'm dying to play it, Jacob.
I'm loving every second of it, man.
Even just scratching the surface like you have just now makes me want to play it terribly.
Dude.
I have no access to it, but it sounds awesome, man.
So like, here's all the different classes I have right now. Like, I have myself, which is I think I'm a mercenary, which is like really swift and fast or they're good with swords. That's my main character. He also has a really cool weapon that I got recently, which I don't want to spoil for you. I have a like a warlock type character. I have a healer. I have 2 clerics actually. 1 archer, 1 like mage, 1 lance, or he's not a lance. He's I guess it would be a knight, but he's not like wearing armor. He has like a horse and he has like a polearm. So he's like your typical like sparring guy. I have a brawler which uses fist weapons. I have a thief, like, and I haven't recruited anyone yet. Another cool thing is that you can recruit other people from other classes by like, for example, doing tea parties for them, just talking to them every week, upping your skills in areas that they are compelled to. Like one of the characters I want to recruit, which I think I'm about to, is her name is Mercedes. And she's a part of the Blue Lion House, and she's a really good healer. So I wanted to get more healers on my team, and she's really compelled to like bow and dexterity or no magic skill. So if I up those stats on my personal character, like my main character, she will be more compelled to want to join my house for whatever reason. And the way they do that is they approach you in the middle of your class and they like ask to join your house, and you can either say yes or no, which is cool. Just through like constant interaction with them. But yeah, I could sit here and talk about this all day if you have any questions. But
I just feel bad that I can't talk to you about it.
Oh, I know.
I haven't played. I'm sure Preston's been playing it, hasn't he?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure
I was hoping
to
talk to him today.
Yeah, we tried to get him on this episode, but he's busy. He's working today as well.
If he is, I hope he didn't pick the same house that I did, because it would be fun to hear a perspective of a different playthrough.
Man, it's like, because I'm going to PAX at the end of the month. In addition to have to pay for like an Airbnb, a plane ticket, and also some lenses I have to rent, and I think I might buy a new gimbal. It's like,
what's a gimbal?
You know, like a Ronin or like a Z1 crane, holds DSLRs and stuff, and it's like a Steadicam essentially.
You got to buy that for PAX?
I already have one, but I need a better one that can hold heavier lenses because mine's like the bare minimum.
I gotcha.
I like it because I shoot a ton of B-roll at events like this, because I'm going to focus primarily on video at this PAX versus like writing. So I'm going to make like tour of the show floor, and like another one of the video guys is going this year, so he and I will probably team up for a bunch of video stuff. But the Steadicam looks way nicer for like a show floor tour versus like handheld.
Yeah.
So stuff like that I want to invest in. So I'm looking at like $1,000 before the month is over. So I can't add on a Switch to that, unfortunately.
That's such a bummer, man.
Yeah, as much as I'd like to. If I dropped PAX, which I'm not willing to do, then I would just go ahead and buy a Switch. But yeah, it's out of the question right now. Maybe later in the fall, hopefully before Christmas, I'll have a Switch, because the more people talk about this game, and I've never ever had any ties whatsoever to Fire Emblem.
Same, yeah.
Gameplay and what I've seen and what I've heard from various people sounds like so much fun. And at the very least, it's something I'd invest at least several hours into to see how I feel before I'd be considering whether or not I want to continue with it. Because there have been, of course, games in the past where it gets hyped up and I'll play it and be like, oh, it's not really for me. But this one definitely sounds up my alley for sure. And it's been a long time since I've really invested in an RPG of that scope. And I still have Persona on my plate. I'll get there. But
that's a great one
this,
too.
As far as accessibility and taking it on the go, sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and this is all thanks to the Switch that I'm even playing this game, because this game, typically this franchise lives on the handheld of the Nintendo line, right?
Right.
It's always on the DS, the 3DS, all those. And I think this is the first console one. I was watching a reviewers talk about this since the one on GameCube. So like, if it wasn't for the Switch, I would have not have played this game. Like, if it was on the 3DS, there's no way I would be playing it. So I'm just thankful for the Switch once again. I love the console.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to invest in a Switch Lite either, because I think about it, I'm like, the Switch is just over $300, all things considered. So I mean, $100 more for the actual Switch. I'd rather just get that.
And just think about it this way: you're getting the newer Switch model, which has better battery life and a better processor. So
yeah.
Or actually, I think the processor gives it a better battery life, so it'll just be quicker.
Yeah, so I'm not really interested in the Lite anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I could play, man. I am just green with jealous rage.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's going to be difficult to play it later in the year too, because we got Luigi's Mansion, Pokemon,
And 1,000
Link's
other games.
Awakening. Like those are just the Switch games.
Yeah. So countless coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't want to sit here and talk about the game all day. Obviously, I really love it, and I can answer any questions anyone has about it. But I am a little limited on time this afternoon, so I want to knock this out. But
let's just hope when that Harry Potter title we've been talking about for a while now, when it comes out, it has social interactions to the caliber of that game to some extent.
Could you imagine like being in Hogwarts and teaching students for the upcoming like battle that's at hand, or like to take on the next Dark Lord or whatever the hell it's going to be? Like, can you imagine how fun that would be? And you get to pick which students you want a part of your house.
It would be cool. I mean, based on that leaked footage, if it even turns out to be real, looks like they put you in the role of a student. But even as a student, if you could interact with to the extent of what you're describing with other students and even professors, would be awesome.
Now, I think I've like through this game, I've slowly learned that what I almost like most in RPGs is just the interactions that you have with NPCs or just other people around the world that make it feel more alive. That almost means more to me than the actual gameplay or the exploration even.
Definitely. Yeah, that reminds me of what we'll talk about in a bit about the Outer Worlds gameplay that was released earlier this week from several media outlets. Because I love that stuff too, especially when it's really well written. It's really effective. So I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it, man. I wish I could play.
Yeah, I'm helplessly addicted.
Yeah, did you get any wins in Apex this week?
I did not know. I had a bad week in Apex. I mean, I only played for a couple hours, like I said, but yeah, I don't know. I feel a little rusty almost. I'll have to get back into it soon.
Zach and I believe, had a couple wins this week, maybe only one. I think we had one this week. It was the other night. Andy was the last man standing. It was a one-on-one fight, and he won.
Nice.
I was an idiot. It was Andy and I versus two other guys, and I wound up killing one of them, but the ring was closing.
Yeah.
And I killed the one guy, but I was afraid the other guy, because it's a situation we were hiding underneath him under this platform for a good 2 minutes. They didn't know we were there. Mm-hmm. So our plan was obviously when the ring begins to close, these guys are inevitably going to head towards the next one because we were pretty far away.
Yeah.
So the moment they started moving, we popped out and shot behind them. But I only saw one of the two guys, so we killed one, and I didn't know where the other guy was, and I was afraid he's around me somewhere. And I got so concerned about that I forgot the ring was closing in. So by the time I got away from the ring, I ran into a cliff that I couldn't climb, and it killed me instantly because it's the final ring. So Andy was the last man standing, but thankfully he pulled it out, and we got a victory, so that was pretty fun.
Nice,
but played a whole lot of Xbox on, not Xbox, well, yeah, Xbox in general for Apex. But it's funny, I now have more hours on Xbox and Apex than I do on PC.
Traitor.
I still, as far as the way it feels to play, and even the way it runs, I much prefer it on PC. But Zach and Andy are always on Xbox, and we've been playing a lot and getting a lot of wins. So
I feel that.
It's been
That's
good.
what you should do. If you got friends playing,
Yeah, it's been good. And it makes me think how cool it'd be to play Call of Duty with them, of course, with crossplay enabled. Coming this year.
I was thinking about that earlier. Yeah.
But what else did I play? I played a whole lot of Hunt Showdown as well. It's funny, the first half of the week I got a ton of wins in Hunt Showdown, and then the latter half I lost significantly. And I actually teamed up with a friend from the community, Master Cthulhu. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've always forgotten how to pronounce that word. But he and I teamed up for a couple rounds, and I was just awful. And to make matters worse, I had a pretty rough night the night before, and I was trying to blow off some steam in Hunt, and it just was not going well. And I was quite upset about it. But it was fun nonetheless teaming up with them, and I know we're going to team up again. And if anyone else wants to play Hunt, now that we have the Trinity coming with, I think Trinity mode may be out now or maybe only on the test server, but when it inevitably comes around with the 1.0 version, it'd be fun to do teams of 3 if anyone else wants to team up with us. But Hunt was great as always. Really excited for 1.0 to launch. That's all I played, but interesting stories from the week. If anyone knows who Eric Striffler is, he's one of the guys on the Pretty Much It show on YouTube. He's been around for a long time. His original channel was called Eric with no K. And I've been watching him since I think late middle school, doing movie reviews and stuff. And now he primarily does movie commentary and TV show commentary. It's all comedic stuff. Well, he's going on tour around the United States, and they're actually performing at Smith's Old Bar in September, which I thought's kind of cool. So I actually requested that show to kind of run sound for him. I think all they're doing, their tour is for the show 13 Reasons Why, which they'd make a ton of fun of. And they're each stop on the tour, they're watching one of the episodes with a crowd, and they kind of commentate on it with the crowd.
Okay.
So I think all I'll be doing is just turning on the projector and a couple mics for him. But I thought it'd be cool to actually do that for him and meet him after watching him for so many years.
For sure, yeah.
So he's coming through. That'll be fun.
It's cool you actually get to work for him.
Yeah, definitely. What else is cool is that Scott Stapp, who I mentioned last week, former vocalist of Creed, is going on tour and playing at the Vista Room in September. I requested that show, and the guy's like, "No, you can't have it. I'm going to do it myself." I asked him, I was like, "Well, have you spoken to anyone on his media team? And if so, can you find out if I'm allowed to take pictures of the show? Because I take a lot of photos, and it'd be fun to like take pictures of his show at the Vista Room."
Yeah.
He's like, "No, I haven't talked to anyone, but it should be fine." So he's going to talk to the owner and see if I can just come in and take pictures while he's performing, which is pretty wild because he's still a pretty relevant musician, and I've seen his videos of his current tour, and he's playing a bunch of Creed songs as well. Yeah. And he's playing for like massive crowds, and I'm wondering why he's playing the Vista Room when he could be playing anywhere else in the city. Why is he doing the Vista Room? I have no idea.
Yeah,
because it is so small. Even Smithsonian Bar would be more relevant than the Vista Room, but
yeah.
And the Vista Room's a great venue. It's just so small for a musician of his magnitude, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be pretty cool if I inevitably get to take pictures of the show because it's just such a tiny room. It'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, you never know. Maybe scheduling was a nightmare when the only time he could come here. I don't know.
Possibly. I don't know. We'll find out, but it's going to be interesting because he plays like a full-on rock and roll show, and that room is not necessarily catered to a show of that caliber. So we'll see. But I mean, that's the thing about when bands of that size have management and tour managers that book shows and whatnot, or whoever's responsible for that has to know all that information. So they have to know the size of the room and what they have available and the capacity of people that can fit in there. So they have to have chosen it for some reason, but
that's got to be such a demanding job. Like, imagine trying to fumble all of that together to create like a tour schedule. That makes sense.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I don't know if a tour manager is often responsible for booking as well. I'm sure tour managers all have different responsibilities. I actually might have a chance to experiment with tour managing coming up soon. I've been offered an opportunity that I might be able to do. I'm too busy with school right now, but it's something I'd be willing to try at least once because I've always wanted to go on a tour with a band.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But other interesting story, which pretty sure this guy was telling the truth, but it's pretty fascinating. This drummer for the Elvis tribute band that played last night, that was fine, I guess. I mean, the guy looked like Elvis. He didn't sound entirely like Elvis, but he looked like him, so that was fine, I guess.
Okay.
But the drummer was a 72-year-old guy who could probably pass for 50, but he was 72. And he's one of those guys that's straight out of New York and is borderline mobster. And he told me probably 50 stories in the span of like 15 minutes. And he opened by showing me all of his old girlfriends from his life in his wallet. He has all real photos of all of his girlfriends, or not all of them, but he had like 25 photos in his wallet. That's like, I don't know if you can see on video. Sorry, we're not doing video this week, but it's incredible. It's like the size of a Whopper is the size of his wallet, just full of all these pictures.
Okay.
He's describing all these different women and like where he met them and how they were in bed and everything. And he's like, I kid you not. He's like, I slept with over 200 women. He's like, now I got prostate cancer. I have to have surgery in 2 weeks. He was like, but it was totally worth it, man. It was totally worth it. Just going on and on and on about all these women he'd slept with. And he talked about meeting, I think he met Johnny Cash on multiple occasions at a studio they used to record at. He played with a ton of famous musicians. He was name dropping all these people. But oddly enough, one of the more interesting stories to me is that he knew Robert Downey Jr.'s father. And he said he used to bounce Robert Downey Jr. like Iron Man on his knee when he was a baby.
Oh my God.
I was like, if you're telling the truth, that's fascinating because he's like incredibly famous now. And he told me that Robert Downey Jr. is technically Robert Downey the Third, but for whatever reason, he took the name Jr. instead of the Third, which I thought was kind of interesting as well. But he said he knew his dad. They weren't super close, but he and a couple other friends would occasionally go over to each other's houses. And he said when Robert Downey Jr. was a baby, he would hold him and stuff.
Yeah, I heard. Well, obviously Downey Jr.'s had a rough childhood. He had some addiction problems, but yeah, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but he told me a bunch of stories about wild venue experiences in New York, and I thought just the Robert Downey Jr. thing stuck out to me above it all. But he was a pretty interesting guy. He's chock full of a bunch of stories. He was pretty hilarious too for how old he was.
Yeah,
but yeah, he played in the band. I just thought it was kind of funny meeting him.
Yeah, that's funny.
So. Yeah, I've met a handful of interesting characters running sound over the years, but that was definitely one of the more fascinating guys with all those stories he had to tell. He was funny.
Going back to his pictures though, like were these like women attractive? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Obviously,
there was
all
all like pictures
time.
from like the 60s and 70s and stuff, but
I bet that was cool to see.
They were pretty. So yeah, he's a funny guy. His name was Steve. Steve the drummer.
Steve.
Yep. But And you could tell he's one of those guys that tells these stories to everyone, because the guy who actually performs as Elvis was like, Steve-O, wrap it up, man. He's like, we got to do sound check. You can talk to him later. He's like trying to set up his drums and tell me stories at the same time.
Yeah.
So he was a nice guy. It was fun.
Yeah.
Tonight's a Zeppelin tribute.
Oh.
Yeah, I realized that this venue that is not my primary venue whatsoever. The main guy just gives me all the tribute shows, which is fine, because that venue ironically pays more than Masquerade and Smith's Old Bar, so it's fine with me. But I get all the tribute shows. So tonight Zeppelin's playing. We'll see how that goes. I think I've seen 3 or 4 Zeppelin tributes. I've seen several Beatles tributes, multiple Grateful Dead tributes, a few. I can never remember the name of the band. They do the song "The Chain." Fleetwood Mac, many of those. Okay. So we'll see how this Zeppelin tribute stacks up against the rest. I've also seen a Red Hot Chili Peppers tribute. I think quite the tribute guy. Enough, I've seen a Weezer tribute as well, and they sound just like Weezer. Got to hand it to them. They do pretty good. So
I've never been a big tribute guy, but that's cool.
Me neither, but I understand why some people go to tribute shows, because I figure it's significantly less money to see the actual band, and oftentimes these old bands don't sound anything like they used to, but the tributes sound like them in their prime.
Yeah.
So I get it why people go to shows like that.
For sure.
It's funny to me, especially when tribute bands take themselves too seriously, but when they perform the songs well and sound just like the band in their prime, I get why people come to those shows.
So how do you tribute bands function? Like, do they have to give a portion of their earnings to like the actual thing to be called what they are?
I have no idea. They don't ever go by
or is it completely just free
tribute bands are often named after albums or songs from the band. Like, for example, this Fleetwood Mac tribute, which is one of the most prominent in the United States, actually. They're called Rumors, and I believe that's the name of one of their most famous albums. It's called Rumors.
So they don't directly like say they're just this tribute band.
But it'll say like Rumors, a Fleetwood Mac tribute, or blah, 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 Red Hot Chili Peppers tribute.
Gotcha.
So people know. But I don't know how that works. I've always wondered that, because some of these bands will actually re-record the songs and like have their own version of the songs, which is really interesting.
And they're making money, obviously, from going to the shows.
Oh, yeah.
I assume that's how they make their living.
Yeah, some of these bands live off it, like make a living off of being a tribute band, which to me just sounds like, I mean, if you're making a living and you're loving what you're doing, that's great. But to me, I'm like, you're pretending to be someone else for the most part.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these tribute bands will even dress up and intentionally try to make themselves look like the original members.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just living someone else's life. I'm like, I don't get that at all.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not for me.
Sure.
But yeah, that was basically my week, Jacob. I don't really have anything was going on that I can think of that's even remotely interesting to talk about.
Yeah. I want to go ahead and apologize for not hitting you up on Thursday to go eat pizza. I completely
That's
forgot.
all right, Jacob. I did sleep in a little too long on Thursday anyway, so it was fine. But we have got to make up for it next week.
This Thursday, though.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Keep your schedule clear.
Yes, sir. Well, Jacob, a fair bit of news occurred this week that I think is pretty exciting to talk about. You ready to jump in?
Yes, sir.
I was waiting for our catchphrase.
Oh, hey, man, what's the news?
Not that it really matters, but I always appreciate it, Jacob. Jacob, we saw a whole lot of Call of Duty Modern Warfare gameplay. I don't know how much of our community is actually genuinely interested in this, but I am head over heels excited. And I'd love to talk to you about some of the stuff that stuck out to me if you're up for it.
Sure.
Cool. First and foremost, Jacob, how much have you seen, and from what you've seen, how do you feel about it?
I saw the trailer that they released, and I saw a little bit of the Twitch stream where they invited all the influencers to play for a little bit. I think it was on the 1st.
Okay. What'd you think?
I think it looks fun. I think it looks like Call of Duty. I think it definitely looks different in the sense of like just how the game flows and the gunplay a little bit. And just the lack of healing too. That's big. I think the campaign footage from the trailer that we saw, like all the night vision stuff, looks really compelling. And like it's kind of crazy how dark the game is. Like if you really take a because I also listened to some other coverage from other outlets, and apparently like in the campaign, like it's just a lot of portions are just completely dark. Like you cannot see without those night goggles, which is really cool. And that also kind of creates moments of like not just tension and anticipation and stuff like that. So it's going to be kind of a new feel for a Call of Duty campaign, which I'm really excited about. Not sure how interested I am in the multiplayer. Like I've always kind of been compelled by it, but never like to the point where I want to really invest into it. At least not since Black Ops 2, at least. But yeah, I think it looks really cool. I think the guns, like especially the gunsmith. Did you see all that stuff?
Oh yeah.
Like that's crazy. There's so many different attachments, and I know it's not final yet, but I think they were talking about 160 plus or something like that. That's an insane amount of customization for a gun. But yeah, I just think there's going to be a lot of depth in terms of the customization, and I'm excited to see what else they're going to bring to the table. They're obviously going to be talking more about the campaign once we get closer to launch. I think that's the last thing they're talking about in particular. And I'm still holding out hope that there's going to be another surprise. I'm not sure what I really want, but I think the what's that 2v2 mode called?
Gunfight.
I think that looks really cool, and I'm excited for some duos with not only us but other people's in the community, because it's a very nice quick game mode, and it's always has a lot of variety in it with the randomly selected weapons, I guess.
Yeah, that is the mode beyond even like, say, Cyber Attack, the 20v20, and even the realism modes, which we'll talk about here in a bit. I think Gunfight still sounds like the most fun to me.
Yeah, and they actually made maps just for that mode too, so they're like super small and compact, and I think they're symmetrical too.
Yep.
So that's pretty much my thoughts on it. What about you?
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of things that stood out to me. I did as much research as I could in the short amount of time I had to prepare for this podcast. So I've collected an amalgamation of things that I think, among all I've heard, that kind of stands out to me the most. First and foremost, none of the weapons in this game are hit scan. They are back to being ballistic projectiles, which means you're literally shooting things at other people. So a little more realistic in that sense, which is pretty satisfying as well. Also, the map design is intended to be a tad more realistic, where not all of them are entirely 3-lane like they used to be. So a little less asymmetric and not quite as 3-lane, and a little more cluttered as well. And out of the couple maps I saw in action, it certainly seemed that way, which I think is pretty cool as well. Because I was kind of worried. It was like, because I mean, I've never had really complaints about the map design in Call of Duty, but the 3-lane thing kind of gets old after a while. Regardless of the aesthetic of the map, it's just that feel can get kind of monotonous, I feel.
Yeah.
But the maps I saw look cool. I'd love to see a couple classic Modern Warfare maps return. If I had to choose two, I'd go with Chew. If I had to choose two, I'd go with Backlot and Crossfire from Modern Warfare, the original. We'll see if any of them show up, but the maps I saw look pretty cool. Sound design, this is in no particular order, by the way. The sound design is phenomenal, especially if you listen to it with a good pair of headphones. All the weapons sound magnificent. I love the way that sounds guns when reload and when they're fired, and when you're swapping weapons and stuff. Just in general, even the footsteps and the gunfire in the distance and the different spaces within maps all sounds entirely different. And it just sounds incredibly realistic. I mean, I've never been in a war zone, but it sounds much more akin to, say, Battlefield, or even another great example of sound design would be Hunt Showdown. Yeah. So it sounds excellent. I think it sounds better than Call of Duty's ever sounded in its history. So I'm pretty excited about that. As you mentioned, customization is incredibly deep, and each attachment subtly affects everything else, which I think is pretty interesting. Like if you deck out a weapon to be incredibly steady and fire more accurate at longer ranges, it'll inherently be heavier to control, and a bit slower when you're running around and actually trying to aim down sights. So I like how every little attachment makes a difference in, like, say, movement speed, or mantling, or taking cover, or lifting your weapon to fire. I think that's pretty awesome. So I like that a lot. And I love how deep it goes, and how people have said that you can literally make a weapon worse if you customize it improperly, or just go or apply too much to the weapon that's entirely unnecessary. In regard to that, I do think it's cool that in the realism mode, or at least at night, when you're almost forced to use night vision to see where you're going, or at least tactically, the lasers can be seen very easily from certain distances, and especially if there's one laser in particular that never goes off and can easily give away your position. I think that's pretty cool as well. I like how in that mode there's no HUD, which is awesome. It's basically a hardcore mode, but it hurts a little different in the sense where there's no HUD. You also don't get confirmation that you've killed anyone. So you could fire like a hole somewhere where you think someone is, and you have no idea if they died or not. That's something I've always loved about Hunt, where if you shoot someone, you don't hear them scream. You don't know if they're dead or not. Yeah. Which has always been pretty cool to me. So I like that. I think that mode looks really fun, and I look forward to trying that for myself.
For sure.
There are multiple ways to reload. You can do a full reload, which obviously takes the longest. There's a tactical reload where, say, you've depleted maybe half your magazine. You can remove that magazine, replace it with another one, and actually hang on to the rest of that magazine for later, which is kind of interesting. You can also reload while aiming down sights, which was announced prior to the announcement as well, which is pretty cool. And they all happen at different speeds. There is no traditional radar except through kill streaks, which I also find interesting, which I actually kind of appreciate because I have, which many people have made this point, I have found my eyes glued to the radar more so than the game itself the majority of the time I'm playing.
Sure.
And I never realized it's not really straining, but it can just kind of, it's not nearly as exciting as I'd rather feel really engaged in the action itself. And someone made a great point, like Apex and many battle royales do not have a radar, and it feels great because you're fully immersed into the actual gameplay itself versus just, even in Halo, I have a tendency to stare at my radar until someone pops up.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that, but it has like the compass up above with numbers, like for example, in any battle royale, like, Southeast 247, it's like where you can call people out. So I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a nice change up for Call of Duty. I mean, I haven't played it for myself, but from what I've seen in gameplay, I think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Progression is spread across the entirety of the game, including campaign, operations, every multiplayer mode. So I think it's pretty cool. You can customize your weapons in any one of those modes and carry them over to anything, and it all contributes to your overall level, which I think is awesome.
That's cool.
As we mentioned, crossplay is included, and it's been described a bit. According to what I've read and what I've seen in YouTube videos, for the majority of the time, Xbox players will be matched with Xbox players, PS4 will be matched with PS4 and PC respectively. But if there's like a shallow pool, if there's like a time of day where not as many people are playing, there's a bit of crossover there where PS4, Xbox, and PC could wind up together. And especially if, say, for example, we're on PC and Zach and Andy are on Xbox and we team up with them into a party, it will inevitably toss us into like the main crossplay pool, which is all the other people that are crossplaying.
Gotcha.
So I think that's awesome.
I'm really interested to see if there's going to be a big difference between keyboard and mouse players and controller players. Like, I don't know how you track that. Like, maybe they can, Activision somehow, or Infinity Ward. Like, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see if there's any disadvantage there.
Yeah, I watched a few of Drifter's videos, and he touched on that a bit. He said that multiple mouse and keyboard enthusiasts who are influencers who are known for being PC gamers got destroyed by console players on several occasions.
Oh, really?
And it comes down to the aim assist too, honestly.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to me because I want to play in PC, but I almost want to play in PS4 as well.
Yeah.
But because I mean, at the end of the day, it's crossplay. So at that point, I don't really care where I play. I feel. I obviously like the higher refresh rate and options as far as FOV and stuff on PC. Sure. But aside from that, like I've always been fine with Call of Duty on console.
And you can just plug in a controller on PC too.
Exactly. So we'll see where I end up playing primarily. But I did think that was interesting that he said that even at the event itself, many PC players were outgunned by console players on a few occasions.
I saw this clip of the Doc destroying Shroud. Do you know both of them?
I don't know Shroud, but I know you're talking about Dr. Disrespect.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's this clip of him and this guy named Courage. They were playing against Shroud and another team, but apparently they were beating Shroud really bad. Then the servers disconnected, and they were blaming Shroud because they thought Shroud disconnected the servers. It was funny. It's not funny me explaining it, but it was a funny clip. I'll have to send it to you.
Okay.
But yeah, just the Doc is so funny. I love the Doc. But anyways,
I've never actually seen any of his videos or streams or highlights or anything.
Dude, you got it. Like, at least follow
I just know his name and I know what he looks like.
Dude, follow his YouTube channel and you will fall in love with him. I promise you.
All right, we'll see.
Like, you will. Like, I love the dude. Like, he's literally like he's a genius.
Nice. Well, aside from all that good stuff, the game modes do excite me. As we've mentioned, gunfight sounds incredibly awesome to me because I'm all about like really high stakes, intense competition, and gunfight just sounds exhilarating in that sense. Standard TDM and domination, stuff like that looks awesome. I do like the slower pace of the gameplay. I know it changes a bit based on your weapon and your loadout. But I do like how it's slowed down a bit, and I think they've tried to achieve that apparently with doors in the game that you can either burst through or quietly go through, which kind of slows down the pace.
Okay.
So I'm down for that. It doesn't have to be the most realistic shooter I've ever played by any means, but I think the touch of realism, the updated graphics, and the engine overall, and just the pace of the gameplay, and of course the sound design, and the look, and I haven't felt it yet, what it feels like to play, but just the look of everything, the sound of everything looks great to me so far.
Yeah. This might not mean anything, but just on Twitch, like when they were revealing the multiplayer, it was at the top of the metrics. Like everyone was watching it. So
Yeah.
like even more than Fortnite. So like people are interested to see what it's about at the very least. So
yeah.
Again, I don't know if that means anything. Is that gonna, sell a lot of copies? I mean, obviously Call of Duty sells copies every year, but I feel like they don't retain a huge player base in terms of the amount of people that buy the game,
Right. I really do have a strong feeling this may turn it around, at least this year, because in addition to all the standard game modes, obviously we mentioned gunfight, the 20v20 we mentioned, which is pretty wild because that's vehicles. It has like ATVs. You can spawn a tank. All the kill streaks are still there. You can call in a nuke in 20v20, and it looks like just really intense, constant action with that many players, because that's basically ground war, but just up the ante, because I think it used to be like 8-on-8 for ground war, but now it's 20-on-20.
Yeah.
And they've even discussed having even bigger maps that are catered to 50-on-50, which is essentially Battlefield, but Call of Duty, which is pretty crazy.
And others,
but that gameplay too looks really, really fun.
Isn't there vehicles in ground war too that they've teased?
Yeah. ATV and tanks I've seen so far.
Yeah.
And of course there are various helicopters and stuff you can control and kill streaks, but the main like ground vehicles are tanks and ATVs from what I've seen.
Yeah, that's new.
Yeah, I mean, that was in Call of Duty 3 as well as World at War, but it's cool to see them return, especially in a bigger setting like that.
Uh-huh.
I'd like to see if they pull off 50-on-50 as well. I think that'd be really cool to try in Call of Duty. Lastly, Cyber Attack, which is another twist on Search and Destroy, which I believe is there's a single bomb point where both teams are fighting to plant the bomb.
Okay.
And I think when you die, you're dead, obviously, but you can be revived. I think your teammates have like a minute and a half to revive you.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool, but both teams are fighting to plant the bomb. And I think the bomb plants relatively quickly, so it encourages you to be like in the face of the enemy and not creep around as much.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a pretty cool twist on Search and Destroy. And everyone I've heard talk about it so far says it's a lot of fun.
Okay.
So I think just the modes we know of, which include, I don't know if they talk about everything, but we know obviously Team Deathmatch, Domination, Cyber Attack, the Realism mode, 20v20, potentially 50-on-50, and Gunfight. That's just a ton, just multiplayer alone. In terms of competitive multiplayer, that's a lot of content right there.
Yeah.
And you consider all of the gun customization, all the maps. I think there's like an operator mode that's like the co-op / campaign mode in addition to like the main campaign. So I think all of that included, it sounds like a ton of content. And as a Call of Duty fan, I've been obviously a Call of Duty fan since the beginning. This is definitely by far, like I've said, the most excited I've been in a long time. And I always get relatively hyped about Call of Duty, but this one is like the biggest departure from what we've known for so long. It's still at its core Call of Duty, but all of the incremental changes they made, but the big ones like the game modes and the look and feel of the game just has me so stoked. And it's obvious by now I'm a huge shooter fan. So between that, Doom Eternal, I think those are the two main shooters this fall.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited for both those games. But Call of Duty, man, it looks really, really good. So I'm pumped for the beta, and we'll of course play that and probably do some Let's Plays and stuff. But look forward to talking to the community about that, and of course teaming up with you guys across any platform, which is great. So we're no longer hindered, at least in Call of Duty, if you guys pick it up, team up.
I'm glad you're excited, man.
Think about how many people we get on a 20v20 team crossplay.
That'd be cool.
That'd be really fun.
What episode is this, by the way?
This is 210.
I'm gonna post a story on my Instagram.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about Call of Duty right now, but I've loved everything I've seen. I think the weapons that stick out to me are the FAMAS looks incredible. I've always been a big 3-shot burst fan in any shooter, but the FAMAS looks so deadly. Specifically, I saw it in a 20v20 match. This guy had a foregrip. I think he had a long barrel, like some kind of special stock that really made it steady. I feel like in 20v22 with those long distances, it makes sense to have a bit of a slower weapon at long range, and that thing was just so deadly. But all the guns I've seen just have so much punch and girth and recoil, and just like a ton of fun to try to master all of them. And I like how in depth you can make them. You can name all your guns. So I feel like more than ever, they said like the main character of the game is meant to be your firearms. So I am just so excited to experiment with all that.
Garrett, you know how much I like girth on my weapons.
I'm all about that, man. I want a girthy gun, especially on the 20v20. Gunfight will probably, obviously gunfight's random weapons, but on smaller maps, probably have something a little quicker. But those big maps, man, I'm all about that girthy, long range, steady shot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think that's everything for Call of Duty.
Okay. I just want to reiterate that I am also excited, but I also am holding my excitement in check because it is another Call of Duty game. I am a little fatigued by the franchise, and I'm hoping like you're saying, like a lot of these changes or implementations are going to be exciting, because I do really do like Call of Duty. It's just, it's when you release a game every year for over a decade, it gets a little, monotonous.
I feel you, but yeah, I feel you there. I think it looks exceptional, though. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Let's talk about No Man's Sky Beyond, Jacob.
Sure.
This sounds pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I haven't read anything about this, so enlighten me.
This comes from John Porter of The Verge. He says the next major expansion for No Man's Sky Beyond is launching on August 14th. In a blog post announcing the release date, the game's director Sean Murray said that the free expansion will contain 3 major updates rolled into one. Beyond will be available for the game across PS4, Xbox One, and PC. He says notably, the expansion builds virtual reality support into PS4 and PC versions of the game. In this mode, you move around the game's universe by teleporting short distances at a time. Otherwise, everything you can do in the standard game is also possible in VR. It is a very immersive experience. From Sean Murray, he says, quote, "I'm not sure if I've ever felt so scared playing No Man's Sky," was my colleague Andrew Webster's key takeaway from his time. Oh, that was not from Sean Murray, but Andrew Webster says he's never been so scared from his time in the mode earlier this year. Along with the virtual reality support, Beyond will also include a quote, radical new social and multiplayer experience called No Man's Sky Online. However, beyond this brief description, it's still unclear exactly what the mode will consist of. The main thing Murray has emphasized so far is that the update won't turn the game into an MMO. Quote, "It won't require a subscription, won't contain microtransactions, won't be free for all existing players," the developer wrote on an EU PlayStation blog.
That's a big free update.
Yeah, it is. I still think it stems back to the very harsh and vocal criticism they received at the initial launch of the game, where people were thoroughly disappointed. Granted, and Preston and I stand by this, we were never disappointed because we knew exactly what we were getting into, because I think we looked into it so much before playing it. So I was never disappointed. I definitely got bored of it very quickly. But not even first and foremost, with the initial update they did not too long ago, I think it was earlier this year, maybe late last year. That was already a radical step forward. That was excellent. I only stuck around for like several hours with that update, because even at the end of the day, No Man's Sky isn't that. I mean, it's interesting, but it's never really grabbed me because I don't really have like a main objective. It's mostly just exploration. But I always fantasize. I think many of us fantasize at the beginning, like, wow, what if you could play this game in virtual reality? That would be like the ultimate way to play. So the fact that they're implementing it, and I have PSVR, you can bet your boots, Jacob, I'm definitely going to try it at the very least.
Hell yeah,
flying
man.
around in my spaceship across planets, man. It sounds awesome.
The only thing that I was bummed about is that I spent $60 on it, because it didn't feel like a $60 game to me. That's why I was initially upset about it. Obviously, time's passed, so I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But will I go back and play this, like even with the multiplayer stuff added? Probably not, but I think it's cool, and it definitely incentivizes people to go out and buy the game now, for sure. Like this actually seems like a pretty good deal now. No matter how much it is. Like, you got multiplayer, you have VR, which is like the dream for this game, I feel like. And then also just all the exploration and what they've already added through other updates, through like the building update, and I'm sure they've done other stuff that I am not recalling right now. But it seems like a pretty good game now, from what I hear.
Absolutely.
I know people are enjoying it too.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I'm going to definitely try VR. I might try multiplayer if there's anyone that wants to team up and fly around space for a bit. But I think it definitely calls for a Let's Play of sorts in VR, because it's been a while since we've done a VR Let's Play. And this is the one I feel like that's definitely the best way to come back to that.
I wonder what other players look like in the game, because you're going to see other people through the multiplayer.
Well, I think there was a level of co-op in the update, because I remember playing with someone. Okay. It wasn't like full-on online multiplayer, but it was co-op.
Sure.
So you just look like whatever you've customized your spaceman to look like.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, that was in the last update. So that sounds great to me, man. I just applaud Hello Games and Sean Murray for sticking it out and really bringing that game into the forefront of not really the forefront, but just making it relevant again and getting people excited and people enjoying it for what it was always, I guess, they intended it to be.
Yeah.
So hats off to them, man. I know people who really enjoy the game are probably incredibly appreciative and excited about that. So even as I can't even really call myself a casual fan, just as someone who has played the game and relatively enjoyed it in the past, I'm even excited for this update. So it's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's cool to see how No Man's Sky is kind of rebounding after its launch. It's inspirational for other studios.
Yeah, definitely. And it goes to show that you may be down in the dumps, and people may be harshly critical of you, but if you stick it out and pour your heart and soul into it, and you're able to do so and feel compelled to do so, it can oftentimes pay off.
I mean, it's what Bethesda and EA need to do. Like, EA just needs to shut up. Like, they just need to put their heads down and make games. And Bethesda, to a certain extent, too.
Yeah.
Like with Fallout 76.
Yeah, depending on the franchise. I mean, Fallout 76 has been making updates. I don't know how people are responding to it, but well, not well, it seems. Even when they announced the NPC thing.
Yeah, and they're doing like a little raid pretty soon, I think.
Yeah,
like
raid and like Battle Royale and stuff. So they're still updating the game. They certainly haven't given up on it. And that's a game that at some point, I think will inevitably go back to give it a shot, especially with the inclusion of NPCs, because I didn't totally hate 76 when Preston and I played it. It certainly was very underwhelming compared to what I was hoping it would be. But again, it may end up like a No Man's Sky situation where they updated over time and it turns out to be something pretty cool. Even Destiny evolved a lot over time, Destiny 2 in particular. Oh, yeah. It's come a long way.
Destiny's had a really big rough patch.
So not that it has any importance to me whatsoever, but I am curious to see if BioWare is hunkering down on Anthem or if they're just going all guns, all hands on deck for Dragon Age.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Dragon Age, that has the like potential, because like, and I only played Inquisition, right? Like, this is way off topic. I'm sorry, but like, it's got me thinking about Fire Emblem too. Like, they could really make Dragon Age just like Fire Emblem, like, because it's always had those. BioWare's always good at like, you know, making compelling characters, even in Anthem to an extent. Like, some of the characters were cool, but like, they could really look at Fire Emblem and be like, we could do this, you know, like with their own world of Dragon Age. Like, you could do the same thing and have a hit on your hands. I'm really telling you. Because I really do like Dragon Age, like the franchise in terms of its setting. I think it's a cool setting. You just need to make a better game this time. Not that Inquisition was like a train wreck, but it could have been so much better.
And I'm sure between, I hate to say it, I mean, obviously Inquisition at the time was received pretty well, but I think the post-criticism of that, the failure that was Mass Effect Andromeda and now Anthem, I think there's a lot of lessons that have been learned. Mm-hmm. So I think going forward, they'll have learned a lot. Granted, I don't entirely blame it on BioWare. I know EA's had a hand in the final versions of these games they've released, but
I mean, to a certain extent, you have to, you know, start looking in the mirror, because that's 3 games in a row that should have been better, you know?
Right. And I know it's like, even I know Jason Schreier isn't the end all be all to the news of the games industry, but his book alone on BioWare, the chapter about BioWare, was absolutely fascinating to me.
It almost seems like a leadership problem with BioWare.
Yeah, well, leadership within the studio, and especially their EA overlords certainly have had a hand in deadlines and stuff, which I get. I mean, EA was very lenient with Anthem, and they let them delay that game multiple times.
I mean, we'll never know the whole story. If
you read about Jason's story about Anthem, it's incredibly long. Like, it's practically half a book long. But if you read it, they didn't even know what Anthem was going to be until like the last 6 months of development.
That's insane to me.
It's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, it's no surprise at all that game is the way it is. So that's my question: is will BioWare hunker down and really try to make that game something, or is that the time of whatever like the Destiny-esque shooter? Does that even need to exist beyond Destiny or Warframe anymore? Because those games, I mean, especially Warframe, but Destiny is still pretty popular. And do we need another one of those is the question. Because Anthem, at least in my experience, did nothing even remotely interesting beyond that typical formula. Especially given the game world itself was just very bland compared to other game worlds, like even in Warframe and Destiny. So
the environment was cool. There just wasn't very much of it.
If I were them, I'd focus on, and again, I'm not a developer, so I could sound like an idiot, but if I was in that position and I was in a leadership role, I'd be like, let's make the most kick-ass Dragon Age RPG the world has ever seen. Let's just focus entirely on that. Yeah. No other distractions like Anthem. It's unfortunate that it failed, but let's take all the lessons we've learned from our past 3, the mistakes we've kind of made along our last 3 games, and just really invest in Dragon Age, making it the best possible experience we can.
What you said about not Dragon Age, what are we talking about? Anthem. Yes. What's shocking, like, if you're right in saying like 6 months before they released the game, they didn't even know what it was going to be necessarily yet. That means at E3 the year prior, when they showed us like the gameplay and stuff, like that was probably all they had built.
Yeah, it basically was. I'm not even kidding. Like, that essentially was the game they had.
And also it launched less than a year later. That's insane.
Another bit that I thought was hilarious is that my prediction about Anthem was exactly what I thought it was. They named it Anthem. It was originally called something else. I can't remember what it was called, but they had to rename it to Anthem for whatever reason. And they were told that they had to just create a lore around the title Anthem.
Yeah.
And it was like the anthem of life or something.
No,
It's
Anthem
something
of
we harness.
creation.
Yeah, whatever it was. It's just so dumb. And I could just feel when I saw that title, I'm like, that's clearly the title just because it sounds cool. And they definitely made a lore around the title because that's their only option.
Yeah, I think they wanted to do a different title initially. Like they had to rename it.
I can't remember what it was called. It was actually something relatively interesting if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
but
I think it was like copywritten or something.
Yeah,
so
I think Anthem was an EA decision as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I don't know if EA was like, you have to call it Anthem, or if that was like one of their options.
Yeah,
but I thought
let's
that
not
was
dwell
so
too long
funny.
on Anthem though, because I don't think anyone really cares.
No, but yeah, just BioWare in general and development and how studios can bounce back based off the No Man's Sky discussion. But again, just to reiterate, really pumped for Hello Games, and I hope people love the update. I'm definitely going to give it a shot.
For sure.
Speaking of updates that I am genuinely excited for, Jacob, and it's kind of funny because I goofed in Red Dead Online recently because I was so confused as to what I was even doing. So I thought the roles coming to the game very soon had already been implemented, and I was wondering why I hadn't been introduced to them in like the first 2 hours of playing. But it turns out they had not been implemented yet, but they are coming, and now I will give Red Dead Online one more shot to see if it really pulls me in, because remember, I got bored very quickly because I just wanted my Stalker hat, which is my favorite hat. It's like the Clint Eastwood hat from the campaign, which you can literally get in the first 20 minutes of the game. I had to be like level 40 to unlock it. I was like, that's ridiculous. Just let me play the game and buy it with money if I have to. But this article comes from Matt Purslow of IGN detailing the roles coming to the game, which I think sounds so much fun. So the roles are Bounty Hunter, Trader, and Collector. So for Bounty Hunter, it'll set players on the path to bringing in outlaws and nearby players with a high enough bounty that can be designated as a target. The progression path for this role will also unlock items such as reinforced lasso for tougher targets, a flashy gun spinning tricks, or that's plural actually, flashy gun spinning tricks. They will also have the ability to use Eagle Eye while sprinting and galloping on horseback. So that role alone sounds so fun to me. One, because I've always loved bounty hunting in Red Dead. And to think that I can do that just all the time online sounds fun. Not only with NPCs, but also real players sounds incredibly fun. So I don't know who wouldn't want to be a bounty hunter, but I'm sure there are other players who like to pretend to be other things. So in addition to bounty hunter, you can be a trader. And a trader offers a very different Red Dead Online experience, designed for players to establish and develop a business from camp. By collecting materials and turning them into goods, you can score a profit and gain new skills. Traders can upgrade a camp with a weapons locker, stew pot, hunting wagons to bring in bigger hauls, and recruit dogs that can warn off impending enemy attacks.
That's cool.
That sounds really cool, man.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it'd be cool too if someone like really got into the role of wanting to be a trader online, and you can go to their camp and be like, hey man, what kind of clothing do you have? Or what kind of weapons do you have? And actually, I wonder if they set the prices too. Like, how interesting would that be?
That'd be insane.
Like, I'll give you this rifle for a discounted price if you trade me, I don't know, like all your wolf pelts or something.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds really cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
So collectors hunt out lost jewelry, rare arrowheads, and other treasures that can be sold as individual pieces or as highly valuable sets. Progressing the collector path unlocks tools to aid in the search of rare items such as refined binoculars, a horse lantern, and a metal detector, as well as new skills that aid in the detection of new items for your collection. So that sounds like the most boring to me, but if you like to treasure hunt, by all means go for it. But I think the most interesting ones are by far Bounty Hunter and Trader. So when this actually is implemented into the game, I'm definitely going to give it one more shot. And maybe stick with it for a while and see how people kind of invest in their respective roles, because I definitely want to be a gunslinging, badass bounty hunter in the Wild West. You bet your boots, Jacob. You bet your spurs. So I'd like to encounter a trader that offers me a fine, pristine firearm for a discounted price because he wants my grizzly bear pelts. We'll see.
For sure. Yeah, sounds cool. Like, I don't know if I'll jump back in, but it's definitely cool for people that love the game.
I've always wanted to really give online a shot in that game because I love the game so much, but obviously it's been in beta for a long time. But these roles seem to be really this is like the next true big step for Red Dead Online, so I'm definitely going to give it a shot.
Dude, I have a little short story about Evan playing GTA Online.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I went over there last night and hung out for a couple hours, and he was playing GTA Online. This dude, he wants to get like a tank just to blow stuff up and get 5 stars. You know, get the cops on you in the online mode.
Naturally.
So this guy, he sees this tank that he wants on like the store in the game, for like I think it's for whatever the currency is, I forgot. But it's a lot of money, right? So in order to get this tank, he needs somewhere to get it out of, and he has to like buy this facility, which is basically just a big underground base, which actually ended up being really cool. And you can add a lot of stuff to it, including like decorate the interior design of the place. But Evan, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he opens up his wallet. He buys $100 worth of currency in this game, and he said he's done this multiple times. And it was just shocking to me because like no one that I know really spends that much currency, like real money, on a game. And it was just like he did it like so nonchalantly, like it was nothing. Like he's done it several times. And then he proceeded to buy this facility and then the tank, and he spent all of it. Like that was like $100 expense were those two things. And he had fun with it for a second, but not what did he have $100 worth of fun? I don't know. Like maybe he'll keep using it, over as the weeks pass. But it was just kind of surprising to me that he would just so willingly, toss in $100 for GTA Online. I'm sure a lot of people just
serious money.
Sure, and I'm sure a lot of people just do that. Like it's just a game they jump into. Sometimes they'll spend some money for instant enjoyment. That's sort of like what some people don't like. People like to earn stuff or have like things to do to get things in games. But some people just, they spend the money and they get the instant gratification.
Yeah.
So it's just a different way we consume things, I guess.
Yeah, it's man, GTA Online is the gift that keeps on giving and fueling Rockstar. And I'm not going to ever complain about how much money they made off that game. I don't know why anyone would, but it's a good thing because think about how they were able to invest in Red Dead and the game it wound up being with all the time and money they could pour into that.
Sure.
So I can't even imagine what they do next because that game is just that perpetual income that never ends, especially now with the casino being implemented. I know that seems to be a source of controversy right now, but I think it sounds like really interesting. I love the idea of going online and like putting on my finest tuxedo and going to the casino with the boys.
Yeah, he said he tried that out
or something. Some blackjack.
He said it was fun, the casino.
I bet, like driving your nice fancy Ferrari or whatever the car's called in that game to the casino and hanging out with some dudes and playing some poker online.
Yeah, I know. I don't have the direct article, but I saw that this update, the casino one, had the most concurrent players or activity on the game since it launched.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that's big week for them.
Yeah, it's like they would have to have GTA Online like crossover into GTA 6, which I assume is in development right now. Because I think about all the progression and things people have collected and kind of established in Red Dead Online. They wouldn't want to just throw that all away and going like, oh, here's GTA 6's version of online. Like it'll have to somehow, some way, like all their information transfer into the next game if they want this trend to continue.
Maybe to a certain extent. I don't know. I mean, like there's a new Call of Duty every year and people spend hundreds of dollars on that and it doesn't carry over,
Right, but I think for GTA, considering how many copies it's sold and the popularity of the franchise,
that's
it's
a good
like
point.
People wouldn't want to start over by any means. I mean, people would definitely, but I imagine they'd like to see it continue.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tricky because you don't want to just completely break the game in the next one where people have millions of dollars and all these items when other people are just starting out. Like that's not necessarily fair.
And you got to wonder, man,
I don't know.
With all the technical advancements they made with Red Dead 2, what will GTA 6 be like? It's just fascinating to think about.
I don't know.
Undoubtedly, of course, unquestionably a next-gen title, but I don't know, man. I'm excited to see it. I imagine we won't see it for a couple years at least, but
yeah, probably a few years actually.
Yeah, at least just a reveal in general, probably not for a couple more years.
Yeah. I'm not really itching for it. I can wait.
Yeah, I can definitely wait myself. Even GTA 5 is still fun. Even GTA 4 is still fun. So I'm fine with waiting. And we have Red Dead in the meantime. And I'm still hoping the rumors I've seen for Red Dead coming to PC, which I will undoubtedly play all the way through again on PC if it comes. I hope those are true because I'm itching for that for sure. Because it's great on console, but just that uncapped frame rate and more options for customization on PC is always very nice. So.
Hashtag PC Master Race.
Till the end, brother.
Also, you skipped one story, and I actually have two stories to read here. Before we get into Outer Worlds,
Jacob.
If you would like me to read them,
I'd love to hear them, Jacob.
So the first one was a really big story this week, and this is from The Verge by Andrew Webster. Ninja announces he is leaving Twitch to stream exclusively on Microsoft's Mixer. So before I even get into the article, like, Were you shocked when you saw this headline, or like does this affect you at all?
I wasn't shocked, but I was definitely intrigued because I told you, like I said this on Ask IOG, it reminds me of like athletes being traded to other teams, or like
a little bit,
or maybe like high school athletes coming out of high school and choosing which college they're going to sign to. That's kind of what it reminds me of, and then making such a big move like that. Because even as someone who doesn't typically watch streams, doesn't keep up with any streamers consistently. I watch all your VODs, but you're like the only streamer I actually keep up with to an extent. But as far as like mainstream, extremely famous streamers, I don't keep up with any of them. But even this story was just very intriguing to me because it reminds me of like a sports, or I mean, it basically is a sports organization to an extent.
This is like gaming's version of Stars, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So I did think it was really interesting to hear this come out. So I'd like to hear your perspective on it as someone who's really sort of part of that community.
And going off what you said, I think like Ninja, he is the star. Like he's the one that's transcended gaming and brought gaming to a new light with the help of Drake, of course, when he was on his stream. But I'll go ahead and read the article. I'll just read a couple paragraphs here, just so we're not taking up too much time. Then I'll share my thoughts. So Tyler Ninja Blevins, the biggest name in Fortnite and one of Twitch's most popular stars, is leaving the platform to stream exclusively on Mixer, which is owned by Microsoft, of course. The news comes via a tweet from the streaming star with him dubbing the move the next chapter. Mixer is a fledgling streaming service owned by Microsoft that launched as Beam back in 2016. Actually, I didn't know that. And later rebranded in 2017. The Ninja exclusivity marks a major get for the platform, which has struggled to catch up to competitors like Twitch and YouTube. Here's another quote from Ninja. I have been holding on to this core for quite some time, Ninja said in a brief follow-up video, and I'm super excited to let everyone know I'll be streaming on Mixer full-time now, and I'm honestly at a loss for words. Okay, Ninja. I'm freaking out in the best ways. I feel like I'm going to get back to the streaming roots. Okay, more jargon. So yeah, that's basically it. So I think this is a huge deal because this shows that Twitch is not untouchable by any means now, especially if they can't even hold on to their biggest star. Cause that's a big deal, you know. Like obviously Mixer and Microsoft thought it was worth, like they had to have thrown so much money at Ninja. Like you got to imagine this was easily, it might even be 7 figures.
I heard it was rumored 100 million, unless it was a joke.
That is insane.
That would be absolutely.
That's how valuable his brand is.
I actually saw a really interesting perspective on this. Have you ever heard of the YouTube channel Gaming Careers before?
No.
So he does a lot of like Twitch tutorials and like stream tutorials about like, you know, here's what a good mic you can buy, or like a good setup, or how to properly do this on OBS and stuff. Yeah. Well, he gave his perspective on this, and he made a really good point that I hadn't considered. He thinks that Ninja, because Ninja originally even mentions this in his announcement, like he wants to get back to his roots, and formerly he was a professional Halo player. And what's interesting, I told you a buddy I know from church used to play with him before he was famous. Like they played each other all the time, which I thought was so cool. And someone made a good point. What if not only is he joining Mixer for the sake of Microsoft, but also for the next Halo game that he's going to stream that will be on PC? Like people think Ninja may single-handedly, with of course the help of Microsoft, may bring Halo back into the forefront.
Yeah. So, or maybe even going off of that, maybe Halo has a BR that he's going to fit right into and transition from Fortnite.
It very well could be. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd you know me as just a Halo fan, I'd love to see Halo return to its the popularity it once had. I mean, I get why it's dwindled over the years, but I do think he makes a good point in saying that, like, that could very well be a part of it. Yeah. I kind of wish I'd gotten into Mixer back in the day when I had the chance, because I very briefly considered, like, what if I swapped a Mixer over, or what if we, before you were doing your own thing, had swapped a Mixer over Twitch? But I feel like now that he's there, it's just going to grow even more.
Well, yeah, that's their intention.
So when 100%. Are you switching to Mixer, Jacob?
Today. This is my announcement. This is sort of what I've been kind of like. I've been kind of not necessarily preaching this, but I've been like throwing around the idea that Twitch is not going to be on top forever. Like these other platforms are catching up, especially YouTube. Like YouTube is obviously YouTube is YouTube. It's owned by Google. It's the biggest video watching platform on the web, right? Besides Facebook, maybe. Right. And their streaming platform is becoming very huge. It's not Twitch, obviously, but it's bigger than Mixer still, and Facebook too. And there's a couple of Chinese sites that are becoming big too, but we don't have any exposure to those. But I think like this is what I've been saying. Like this is going to be a lot like TV. I think like these other platforms are going to try and spend the money they need to, especially like Facebook and Microsoft. Like they have so much money, man.
Like your exclusive stars are found on our platform that you like to watch.
Yeah,
essentially. Like what if these streaming companies start just buying streamers or like influencers?
I really do think that's going to start happening more. Like even Facebook, like Mixer. Facebook was bigger than Mixer. Like I follow this page that does like earnings reports for all the streaming platforms, and it like tells you like their growth, the trends that are happening on each platform, and how they compare to each other. Like this last one that came out, it was like Twitch was declining, YouTube was growing fastest, and then Facebook was third in terms of popularity. Then Mixer fell to fourth. But now I'm sure Mixer is going to have a huge jump because I think he already has more subs on Mixer than he ever did on Twitch at any one concurrent time.
Wow.
And I think that's mostly because you get a free one whenever you join Mixer. But still, that's still a number you can clout around. And I think he has like over 500K subs.
Man.
Which is insane.
I thought it was kind of funny how Twitch, as soon as that announcement came out, they immediately terminated like his affiliate status or whatever on Twitch.
Checkmark's gone.
Yeah, it's funny.
And I'm sure they had planned, like I'm sure everyone knew like on both sides what was happening. Like it's too big of a deal not to.
Definitely.
Yeah, this is just huge news. Like I'm excited to see like because I do follow these. Unlike you, I follow streaming a lot. Like it's something I really care about. I don't watch TV. I watch people play video games, which is really weird. Some people, but I love watching other people play games, which is weird to say, but I just do. Like especially if I'm looking for a game that I don't necessarily know about or I want to learn more about, it's a great way to, instead of just watching a YouTube video, I can just watch a streamer play it live and just see how they're enjoying it in the moment.
It is fascinating how influencers and streamers have clearly become the main source of exposure for a game and can really make or break the reception of a game. Because obviously the media outlets, like the big ones like GameStop and IGN primarily, and I guess Kotaku's sort of up there, but definitely IGN and GameSpot still have an influence undoubtedly on the industry, or at least exposing games to audiences. Like GameSpot's Call of Duty videos have done really, really well. I've actually watched theirs more than IGN's. So they still have an impact, but influencers by far are they're called influencers for a reason. Like they definitely have the main impact on a game's reception and exposure. And
I think mostly it's multiplayer games too.
Yeah. And I do think it's interesting how the industry has shifted so radically in that direction. How even influencers are more sought after than media outlets these days. Mm-hmm. Like I definitely feel like a total nerd when I'm at like a media event, and
like even
I'm
just
there among all the influencers that are clearly like, are far more interested in talking to them, and especially developers are always catering to them, which is fine. I get
go
it.
to the Call of Duty multiplayer reveal event. It was influencers that were playing the game. You didn't see like IGN go out and capture footage, and they were the ones that released, the first details of Call of Duty. No, it was a stream with influencers on it.
Yeah, there was a media event prior to the actual announcement itself that media outlets were invited to. COG was there as well, but it is funny how influencers are like the main go-to for that. And it's funny because I've been around many influencers now. Like I told you that one time at the Champions of Fire Amazon thing in New York, I was in the same room with Pokimane and Haifu and like a bunch of other known people. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how they're all like not all of them, they're all very interesting characters. And they all have fascinating stories about how streaming has influenced their lives. So I can't even imagine what it's like for Ninja and being on that caliber. But it is pretty wild to me. So that story alone was just, even as someone who doesn't really often tune into streams, I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. So that was a fun story. That was what caught my attention most this week, besides Call of Duty. But here's another short story. This is a short article. I'll read all of it. But I actually learned about this, I think, last night. So Riot Games, which are the makers of League of Legends, they are making a fighting game. So article goes, League of Legends developer Riot Games is working on an unannounced fighting game, according to EVO Fighting Game Tournament co-founder Tom Cannon, who also works at Riot. Cannon confirmed that the development during an interview at EVO, as spotted by esports reporter Rod Slasher Rousseau. Back in 2016, when we joined forces with Riot, I said that we were going to go in the hole for a while, Cannon said. And I want to be able to let people in on maybe the worst kept secret in the universe, which is I can confirm that we are working on a fighting game for Riot. So that's a big deal because I'm not a huge component for I don't know much about fighting games in general, but am I correct in assuming that they don't have a very popular, they're not huge on PCs, right? They're mostly console games.
Not that I know of. I don't keep up with the fighting community very much. Similar to racing.
Yeah, please, in the comments, let us know if I'm wrong.
Yeah, obviously, there's a huge audience for sports games that the only person I know who plays sports games adamantly are Elliot Clark and Zach Bynum. And Zach doesn't even play sports games. I don't think that often by himself. He plays a lot of FIFA, but racing has its audience, and fighting is the one I know the least about. I know tournaments and streams are often very successful and popular, but I don't know enough about the fighting game community to know if it's, what the impact of this will be.
And Riot is a PC developer, League of Legends, that's one of the biggest games in the world, and they also have Teamfight Tactics, which is huge right now too. But I think them making a fighting game it's exciting for the potentially for the PC community because it's going to have this is a PC developer, this is going to have great servers, you would have to think, because it's Riot Games. We have no idea what it's going to be exactly, but this is cool for people that love fighting games. And I've also heard rumors, I think it was just on social media, and I don't know if there's anything to back this up, but there are rumors that Riot is also making a first person shooter. So that could also be very compelling for people that like FPSs too. But it's a short little snippet there that happened on Twitter, and it's got me interested. I've actually never played a Riot game. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, neither have I.
Maybe this new FPS that they're talking about will, I'll jump in. Who knows? I know a lot of people have been addicted to League of Legends, though. It's a very big player in the video game space.
Yeah, I don't know Riot's history, so forgive me if I'm completely misinterpreting what all they've developed. But if they've never developed a shooter or fighting game before, I think that's fascinating, as I've always been interested in seeing studios that are known for one particular genre tackling something else entirely. I think a prime example of that is Guerrilla going from Killzone to Horizon Zero Dawn.
Sure.
And a lot of people have criticized that game more so after the game's come and gone. But I still really thoroughly enjoy that game for what it is, and I think the sequel will inevitably be even better than the original. But for the most part, that was a very successful leap from first-person shooter to what Horizon was, any third-person open world, and be that successful at it. So I've always been interested in seeing studios take that leap. So I can't wait to see what studios like Naughty Dog does post Last of Us. I don't know if they'll be working on another Uncharted title of some sort, or exploring any other sort of genre they may be interested in, and it remains to be seen what Rocksteady's working on. We all assume at this point it's got to be Batman, but you never know. So I do think that's interesting. Thanks for bringing it up, Jacob.
Yep.
Speaking of other things that interest me, Jacob, I'm pretty excited about Outer Worlds, man. I know we've been talking about it for a little while now, but this most recent gameplay has me especially stoked. Everyone has realized this. It definitely certainly looks like, Fallout New Vegas, or just Fallout in general, meets space exploration. Not really exploration, just a space setting. I know it's not quite open world as say a traditional Fallout game would be, but Obsidian, as we know, has made one of the finest Fallout experiences, and I've had a mere taste of that. I've never played all the way through New Vegas.
Yeah.
But people praise that game beyond 3 and even 4. I'm more of a diehard Fallout 3 fan, but I haven't given New Vegas enough of a chance to really decide if I enjoy it more than Fallout 3. But I cannot wait to get my hands on this game. I like even the simple feature of when you talk to someone, it has that old school camera where it zooms into them and you're just stuck on them talking. For some reason, that's so much more engaging than the approach they took with Fallout 4 specifically.
It's funny, Fire Emblem does this too. It's not like a zoom in on them completely, but it's like an over the shoulder of your character and you see them talking.
Yeah, I just think it
does create more engagement.
And it especially helps when the writing's pretty top notch. And I liked even the one quest I saw. I can't remember. It's called Night City. Not Night City. It's from Cyberpunk, but Star City or something. Whatever the name of the city was. they talk to this guy who, I don't know if he's like a gangster or what, but he's like, I need you to go to this town and siphon their power and like siphon it to our town so we can profit off it or something. That was the basic gist of the quest. And you get there to this other town, and this old lady is so sweet and talking about how they help people, and she's going to bake you cookies and stuff. And it kind of makes you question, like, well, should I steal their power, or should I let them know that this guy's trying to steal their power? Like, I love conflict like that in RPGs, and that's the kind of stuff I want in a world like that. And even the atmosphere alone, I just think the characters I saw and just like the snippets of gameplay I saw and just the storyline I followed, even for that one little bit, just looked like a lot of fun. So
yeah. I think the best part about
that, the more excited I am.
Just to interrupt you for a second, I think my favorite part about choice-based games, I'm not a huge guy on replaying games, but those are the kind of games that I do like to replay. The ones that can just, like, you can make a decision, a single decision, and the whole game can turn out differently. And that just is exciting to me because, there's just so much opportunity there to create your own story.
Definitely. And I like how you can be a total rogue. You can cater to any one of the number of companies that are in the game.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait to see the conflict that arises among all of them and what path I'll be compelled to take. Because I always like to be influenced by games like that. I want a company, or in this case, like a company or a faction or whatever it may be, I want to join it because they have compelled me in some way. So I'm interested to see what really stands out to me in that game as far as people's motives.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like Fallout-esque, and of course Obsidian thrives in that genre. So I cannot wait to see how they've or what they've done in Outer Worlds and how it differs from their previous work, and to an extent how nostalgic it feels. I'm kind of getting over nostalgia at this point, even with movies and TV and video games. Like I love nostalgia, but it's like if you overdose on nostalgia, it just means nothing anymore.
Sure.
So yep. I'm hoping it's new in some ways. Like it looks very familiar, but also relatively new in terms of the way they're approaching combat and like the it's not really like, I know there's a perk system, but also like a flaw system. I think that's really interesting too. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you've been caught too many times by these people. You can accept this flaw that you get paranoid if you get caught and it does something negative. But the plus is like you can add this extra bit of customization on, say, a weapon or somewhere else.
It has like benefits and downsides to each perk.
Exactly.
Something.
So it kind of reminds me of that Call of Cthulhu game. I can't remember which Lovecraftian game that was, but you had like phobias you could develop.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting.
Hey,
like,
before you go on, I'm really sorry. I need to go to the bathroom really bad. Can you just keep talking?
Yes, I'll do my best. This isn't fair because I have to pee as well. But in general, not to ramble on about the same things over and over and over again, but I would hope that Outer Worlds features more features, has more mechanics and ideas, like just for one example, the flaw system that's in the game that kind of differentiates it from, say, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout in general, and just not really open world, but just in this case, like a narrative driven, combat focused RPG in space nonetheless. So I'm excited. I know Jacob's excited. Preston's probably the most excited out of the three of us. And the fact that it launches in the same day, I believe, as Call of Duty. Let me double check that real quick. What is Call of Duty's October 25th? Outer Worlds release date. That was quick, Jacob.
Yeah, I didn't wash my hands.
Oh. You said you had to go. You were gone for like 10 seconds.
I didn't flush the toilet or wash my hands.
Wow, that's why.
Because I'm disgusting, and I want to get back here as soon as possible.
Pig, Jacob. You're a beautiful man, but that's disgusting.
I know it is. I'll flush it when I'm done.
Okay, so Outer Worlds and Call of Duty launch on the same day. I will definitely be playing both. I love that. It reminds me of when I got Far Cry 2 and Fallout 3 on the same day when I was a kid. When Preston and I both got that, and we went in to Far Cry 2 thinking like, oh, we're totally going to love this more, and we wound up just totally falling head over heels in love with Fallout 3. So I cannot wait to get my hands on both those games on the 25th. Yeah, I'm stoked, man. I think Outer Worlds looks exceptional so far. And I hope it delivers from start to finish. Like, I hope there isn't just like a chunk that's really good and the rest sucks.
Yeah.
But I trust Obsidian entirely just from what little I've played from them. So I think it's going to be really great.
The more time has gone on, the more I've been interested in the game for whatever reason. I guess just through promotional material. It was cool that it is announced for Switch too. It's unfortunate that it's not coming out the same day and date as like the other platforms. Like, that's a little bummer because I do want to play this game on Switch, not only because I love my Switch, but also it's just like I'd like to be able to take this game on the go when I'm like out and about. But yeah, I definitely do intend on playing it. I don't know if I'll play it like right when it comes out, but definitely at some point this year, like maybe in like the slower winter seasons when things are slowing down. Maybe we'll see. But definitely on my radar, just like you.
Did you say I'm on your radar?
No, the game is, but you are also
I
on
got
my
excited
radar.
for a second, Jacob. You're forever on my radar, but more relevantly on my heartbeat sensor.
Oh, yeah, yay!
You like that, Jacob?
I guess it's kind of cheesy, but
yeah, I'm just I'm trying to woo you a bit. It doesn't seem to be working, but hopefully I can turn things around on our pizza date coming up.
Oh yeah.
Jacob, aside from all the fun gaming news, we do have a handful of community questions to get to on episode 210 of the It's Obvious podcast that either will not wind up on the episode of Ask IOG we have just released, or the following one that I hopefully will come next week or the week following that. So guys, thank you so much for your continued support of the It's Obvious podcast and your submission of community questions week in and week out that fuel the latter half of this podcast. It is always our favorite time. It's always a bunch of fun, nuanced conversation to be had. So if you'd like your questions read on this show, you can reach us in one of three places. You can email us at ItsObviousGaming@gmail.com. You can tweet at us at @obvious_gaming, or submit your questions in the Ask IOG section of our Discord channel. And always include the hashtag AskIOG so we know you want your questions read live on the show. All that out of the way, Jacob, our Australian friend Gigalagaki is back once again and says, "Gentlemen, let's take a stroll through memory lane. Dig back through your memory banks. My question is there a game that you wish had really succeeded, that had a concept that you adored but was flawed and failed in its execution? An example for me would be Brink, the 2011 FPS. I love the art style and customization, and the concept of a semi-class-based parkour-focused FPS was exciting as heck. It just struggled in its execution, and it never really found its feet. Let's hear it and keep being beautiful." I can relate to Brink in a sense. I never actually played it, but I read about it, and I believe Game Informer, another gaming magazine back in the day, and I'm pretty sure it was Game Informer, and I remember thinking it sounded really cool, and I remember it was the cover of the magazine and everything. Never played it. I actually never kept up with it after that article. I just remember it sounding cool, and then years later, I found out that it just did not turn out well, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't really have a great example for this, but I think what was that Cliff Bleszinski game that failed? Lawbreakers. Yes, I thought that game was cool.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's asking about failed in execution. I think for what Lawbreakers was, it worked very well. It was a very good game.
I mean, it's not around anymore.
Yeah, just it wasn't popular because it never really picked up steam to begin with, because it was so similar to Overwatch, I believe.
Maybe.
Was the main crux.
I don't even know if that was the
there was, of
problem.
course, some minor balancing issues at the start, but it really was just there was nothing even relatively interesting to the vast audience, because it was so similar to other hero shooters on the market. So
I also don't think it had great branding.
No, yeah, and it was also, it didn't look all that unique. None of the characters were even remotely as engaging or interesting as, say, Overwatch characters. The only appeal it really had was the violent aspect. Some of the game modes were cool, but even the gimmick of like the gravity thing, I never really loved that. I was always open to it, but I really feel like that was a gimmick deep down. So I think it was just really bad timing for Lawbreakers. But I think execution, it was pretty successful.
Yeah. I don't really have a good example then. I'm sorry, Gigalagaki.
I remember, it's probably a poor example, but the game Two Worlds, the RPG that on the back of the box said the Oblivion Killer, of course, appealed to me as a child after I played Oblivion. I needed more of that in my life, and this is long before Skyrim came along. So I jumped in, and I hated it within the first 10 minutes. So it was a massive disappointment. And as far as I know, that game never really took off. So that might be an example of failed in its execution. I don't think I can't really think of anything else that I was looking forward to that failed. I'm glad that Hunt Showdown has turned out the way it has. Like as far as the way the game performs, and I average on average, I range around 90 to 100 FPS these days in Hunt. On medium, some of my stuff is high, so that's good. The way the game itself has evolved with various options at play, new weapons, bosses, maps, times a day, and just the community support has been phenomenal. So I'm glad that game's paid off, because I love it so much. It'd be a shame to see that game tank in its execution.
Sure.
That's one positive example I could say that succeeded, but I can't really think of any that have genuinely failed. Because I was never really interested in, say, Battleborn from Gearbox. Again, I don't even think that game failed in its execution, because apparently there was a community that really enjoyed that for a time.
But it did die.
But it did die, yes.
I think that's a good example, though, because like I did like that game conceptually, because I thought it was compelling. And I thought it had good systems, and it had like a interesting story mode. Like it was somewhat interesting. I just obviously not enough for me to buy it though. Like I'm part of the problem, I guess. I thought it was a cool idea, and it was something new. It just didn't pan out well for Gearbox. That was Gearbox, right? Borderlands
Yes.
Studio.
Yeah. I imagine Borderlands 3 will be significantly more appealing than Battleborn was.
I hope so. Least. For their sake, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Borderlands 3. I played 1 and 2, but it's odd. I played Borderlands 2, I kid you not, mostly on silent because it was at a time when my mom was still working night shift, and I did not have a good pair of headphones, so I had to play in the room adjacent to hers. And my mom has supersonic hearing. I kid you not, if mutants exist, my mother's one of them because her hearing is unfreaking believable. I don't think my mom's ever been to a loud concert before or something. Because she could hear stuff from a mile away. She basically has ears that like a dog. She can hear a dog whistle.
Yeah.
So I could have my volume, and this sounds like I'm making it up, on 1. Like, oh, I keep my volume on 24 or 36. I'm going to keep on 1, and she could still hear it somehow when she was taking naps after her night shift. So I basically played on silent. Preston would be laughing his butt off on our mic. I'm like, what's so funny? He's like, dude, you're missing all this hilarious dialogue. I have no idea what the humor's like in Borderlands 2 because I never heard any of it.
That's so funny.
Played the entire game, but I heard very little of it because my mom was always sleeping while I played.
Why did you just put headphones on?
I can't remember. At the time, there was a reason why I couldn't. I can't remember what it was. I either didn't have earbuds, I didn't have a good headset. Because I think prior to Borderlands 2 coming out, my Turtle Beach headset, I either didn't have it yet or it had died on me, which is still to this day one of my favorite headsets I've ever had was these Turtle Beaches I had. But I had a very good reason as to why I was not able to hear it. But it sucked, man. So I'm looking forward to playing Borderlands 3 and enjoying, I imagine, the sense of humor that exists within that world.
Yeah.
So... yeah, I have Borderlands 2 installed right now on PS4. I could always jump or run through that if I wanted to, I guess. But
or you could play a new game.
Yeah, which I will probably do, undoubtedly. We have way too much coming up. When does Borderlands launch again?
Let me look at my handy dandy calendar and see if I have it recorded.
3 release.
September
18th,
20th.
man. That's very soon.
Oh, yeah, 13th, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's Borderlands 2. Oops. Borderlands 3 release. Yeah, September 13th.
Yep.
Awesome. Dude, that's so soon.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, man. That'll hold us over to Call of Duty and Outer Worlds.
And Destiny 2.
Dude, as if.
And Code Vein. And Dragon Quest for Switch.
Man, Code Vein still isn't out. My goodness.
And Zelda, which is the following week.
Man, there's so much stuff to play. No way I can afford all of it. I got to pick and choose.
Okay, so what if you had to pick 2 games from this month? We got Borderlands 3. This is September. Borderlands 3. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. Code Vein or Dragon Quest 11. And originally Destiny 2 was also in this month, but it got bumped out.
I'd go Borderlands, Link, and what were the other ones? Not Code Vein. I probably wouldn't play Code Vein.
Dragon Quest 11.
Oh, I mean, I'm not invested in Dragon Quest, so if I had to pick between the two, I'd go Dragon Quest over Code Vein.
What about just one of those games?
Borderlands for sure.
Over.
I can't play
Link's
Link
Awakening.
anyway. I don't have a Switch.
Oh my god, dude. I would pick Link's Awakening.
Yeah. Well, you've never played Borderlands, though, have you?
No.
I think as a Destiny fan, you'll really enjoy Borderlands.
I'm sure I will, yeah.
So, because a lot of people compared it to Borderlands when Destiny 1 launched.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would go Borderlands personally.
I got you.
Next one comes from Master Cthulhu, who I played Hunt Showdown with this week. He writes in, what are your favorite anime opening and ending songs? Original Attack on Titan, of course. Original One Punch Man song.
Yep.
I haven't seen too many. Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, if that even counts.
Oh yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh, man.
It's time to...
Several of the Pokemon anime seasons have been good too.
The original Pokemon song, absolutely.
Oh, it's definitely the best.
I mean, that is an all-time classic. I mean, that song still gets me pumped.
Dragon Ball Z.
I don't really love I mean, some of the Dragon Ball Z intros are fine, but none of them really stick out as particularly memorable to me.
Yeah.
You got to remember, I haven't seen much anime. I've seen only mainstream anime for the most part, so...
I like Rising of the Shield Hero, the first theme.
Yeah.
Did you ever finish that show?
Most of the My Hero intros are pretty good.
Did you ever finish Rising of the Shield Hero?
No, I did not. I need to sign up for a standard Crunchyroll account so I can watch ads every 2 minutes.
You need to finish it, or the first season.
I'm
it's good.
deep into one. Well, I'm caught up with One Punch Man season 2, which I've actually really enjoyed. Again, animation is a far cry from the first season, but the story is pretty cool to me. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I got to check it out.
So, yeah, dude. Which I meant to say, just a shout out to anyone who's watching The Boys on Amazon Prime. That show is just absolutely insane. And I told you about it, Jacob, just to reiterate, if anyone doesn't know what it is based off a comic book series that is very similar to The Watchmen. It's like Watchmen meets Justice League. It's if superheroes lived in the modern world with social media, where superheroes are kind of bought and branded by companies. And just the storytelling alone is really interesting. I love all the characters and the motives of all the characters, but how relevant it is to the world, the current like social media climate we live in, and just the world in general, how connected we are, is a pretty fascinating take on all that.
Yeah.
And there are some action moments in that show, even just character moments that have just been absolutely absurd in the best way possible. Like some of the stuff I've seen in the show, I just can't even believe they put it on screen.
Uh-huh.
So it is pretty awesome. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm actually in the final episode. I haven't seen how it ends yet, but it's been a great show. If you guys are interested in watching a new show and you haven't already heard of The Boys, I highly recommend it. It's pretty good.
How many more of these do you want to do?
We'll do a few.
Okay, good.
Some of the smaller ones.
I do kind of like have to go here fairly soon.
That's right.
Unfortunately. Which ones do you think are the best?
I mean, Charlotte writes in and asks if we'd ever eat whipped cream off each other's bodies. Absolutely.
100%.
I mean, without hesitation. I mean, there's no problem with that at all.
That's where I prefer to eat it.
Yeah, absolutely. Big Jake 23 writes in and says, "Where the F is Preston Pugh? Peace, boys."
Great question.
Preston was in Nashville all week working, but today I believe he's helping his uncle with a project. So they are working together today.
Nice.
Carlos Perez writes in and says, "November is one hell of a month for video games. Which will you guys pick up? Some or all? November 8th, Death Stranding. 15th is Pokemon and Star Wars. 22nd is Doom."
All four.
Yeah, honestly, probably all four if I can afford them. If I had to pick two, it'd be Doom and Star Wars. I'm definitely playing Death Stranding, inevitably, but
that's $240 for the month of November. If you get all those.
That's unbelievable. So if I had to pick two, which I'm probably gonna have to pick two, will be Doom and Star Wars, definitely.
For me, it's probably going to be Death Stranding, and oh man, this is so hard because I really want to play Pokemon, but I also really, really want to play Star Wars. So I'm going to say Star Wars.
Excellent.
But Doom, they're all great games. They're all going to be great. So you can't go wrong, whatever you say. And I just really want to see what Death Stranding is.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure we'll see plenty more prior to the game's launch in November. Hopefully enough that makes me want to choose that over something else. But I am head over heels excited for Doom, and I think I just have high hopes for Star Wars. The initial reveal looks pretty cool. I'm not totally freaking out about it yet, but it definitely looks pretty cool. You need to go do something? All right, I'm going to bring us in here real quick with the finale question. It's actually a shotgun blast from Kyle himself. Bohongeles, bohongeles, Mr. Bongles. He says, well, let me bring it back in when Jacob sits down. Here he comes. Almost ready. All right, Jacob, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. We're going to do the shotgun blast from Kyle. We don't have to spend too much on each one, but this will be our finale for today.
All right.
Kyle says, "All right, you sexy beasts, I'm here to provide content. So here we go with a special homemade shotgun blow from yours truly. Number one, if you had to ruin one film/video game franchise, how would you do it? Detail by detail." I would ruin Star Wars the way Lucasfilm and Disney have ruined Star Wars already.
I would ruin Game of Thrones the way season 8 went.
Yeah. We've already had prime examples of how to ruin notable franchises with Game of Thrones and Star Wars.
Here, Kyle will like this one. I will ruin Battle for Azeroth like Blizzard did.
Nice.
I don't think that's actually the case. I think they made some bad decisions, but I think the game will be just fine. And I think it's still a good time if you haven't been back in a while. which I do intend to go back for. Oh yeah, WoW Classic's coming out soon, so I might go back and check that out. See how that is. I don't know. August is a busy month. Still got to play Fire Emblem.
I would ruin Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order by making it incredibly generic hack and slash combat, not totally unlike the Force Unleashed. I would make it a carbon copy of the Force Unleashed because we were afraid to be bold and try something new, and that's how you would ruin it completely. I would also make very boring one-note characters without any arcs whatsoever, which is sort of like Rey from the Star Wars trilogy.
Kind of like Destiny and Destiny 2. Got boring characters.
Yeah, essentially.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I'm pretty
bad. They could
bad
do
at
so much more.
thinking of stuff how I'd ruin it. So we'll move on to the next one. Kyle says, we're all aware you guys don't have unlimited time to play video games, but if you did have the time and dedication, what game would you master in and out?
Probably right now, play Apex. I said it again. Play Apex. I keep reading the Twitter handle.
This game called Play Apex?
Apex Legends. Jesus.
I'd probably want to be just a total pro at Hunt Showdown because I'm obsessed, but I'd like to be really good at any competitive shooter, definitely.
Yeah. Actually, maybe Fortnite for me. It's like it's never gonna happen. Like I'm not gonna play the game because of how difficult it is to master it. But if I had the time and dedication, that's where I would go. That's where the most popularity is.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be fine with being really good at any battle royale, I guess, like Apex. But yeah, anything that's competitive, I'd probably cater towards Hunt or maybe the next Call of Duty, or probably well, Doom's doesn't have like a traditional PvP mode, but
yeah.
Probably Call of Duty or Hunt for me in the current moment.
All right.
Next one. What is a job that under no circumstances you would ever do? I feel like I've thought about this before. When I see someone doing it, I'm like, I don't care what position I was in. I would never, ever do that. You literally couldn't pay me to do it.
I hate bathrooms.
Yep.
I would never be a janitor unless I had to do it. Like it was all I had. Because I hate, the thing I hate most in the world is cleaning bathrooms. Mm-hmm. I hate it, dude. Like I don't want anything to do with, I'm a big like germaphobe. Like if I do anything that is even like remotely gross in my head, like if I feel like I touch a dirty door handle or something, I feel like I have to wash my hands or I just feel gross. Like I'm weird. I'm very weird.
I get that. I wouldn't want to handle porta potties in particular because they just become poop soup and it is highly disturbing. And people have to handle those and empty them. I just feel for them, dude. I don't know how they do it, but I want no part of that. Keep that poop soup away from me, please. Keep it to yourself. I've always wondered people who are willing to go into a porta potty and just take a massive dump. Like there's just
I've had to before.
You got to be a bold individual to do that.
This one time I was in my parents' neighborhood running, like just like I do sometimes now. And I had to go bad. Like it was an emergency number 2, and it was when they were still building a lot of houses in the on the streets, and they had porta potties all over the place, and that was my only option because it was coming out whether I liked it or not, and I hate porta potties.
You took a dump in a porta potty?
Yeah. You've never done that?
Did you stand on the toilet and squat and poop into it?
Oh yeah, I squatted. Like I didn't sit on it. No way.
Nice.
No fucking way.
Yeah, I wouldn't dare, man. That'd be terrifying.
Yeah, it was very gross.
Wow. Next we got, if Kirby was to bust into your recording right now and inhale each of you, which power would he receive from each member of the show?
I like this question.
Yeah. He would probably receive my workaholicism. Because I'm obsessed with always having something to do. So he'd probably inherit that trait within me.
He'd probably inherit a physique of mine.
Definitely. He'd look like a Jack Kirby.
Yes. Dude, we could be like a superhuman if both of our traits were combined.
Certainly. I could fuse like in Dragon Ball Z. What would they inherit from Preston?
What do you think he would say about himself? Trying to think here. Probably
perhaps his
love for, what is he like? What is Preston like? I just banged my mic really loud. Apologize.
Maybe his organization skills or his ability to make a PC look incredibly clean when
His
he builds
platinum trophies.
it. Yeah.
We miss you, Preston.
I miss you to bits.
So does Kyle have any more questions?
Well, what would he inherit from Zach?
The Force.
Absolutely. He's the last one right here. You guys one day stumble upon a knockoff version of the IOG podcast. What are your knockoff equivalents like, and what are their names? Your knockoff is named Joseph. No, you're Joe. You're Joe Alka.
Joe Alka. Joe Stank Alka.
Did we ever tell that story in the podcast when the three of us were trying out for the basketball team in high school, or it was not our junior, it was our sophomore year?
Yeah, we have.
And we knew we weren't going to make it when the coach was calling out our names to like play a scrimmage. He was like, Garrett, Zach, and he looks at you and he goes, Joe. I start laughing hysterically.
I like did one of these like motions where I like raised my hand. I'm like, sir, never mind. It's not worth it.
Man, I'll never forget that. We knew in that moment, we're like, yeah, we're definitely not making it this year.
I'll never forget how goofy of a looking person he was, our coach.
Coach Bless, man. Nice guy.
He was a funny looking guy.
Yeah, you would be Joe Alka, and you'd be buff, but not nearly as ripped as you are.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be as, like, I'm not saying that I'm big, but I wouldn't be as physically fit as I was, and I would also have a bigger ego. Mm-hmm. So it'd be like a double negative.
Yeah.
What about you?
My guy would.
So let's think about what you are and like what would be the opposite of that.
Well, I guess I'm like the editor of our content. So
the
knockoff version would.
It'd be poor edits, I guess. It'd be a very poor version of the show.
Very poor final product.
And you would
poorer than it already is.
Hey, dude, it's a good show, man. This is the best show on YouTube. Smile.
Totally. What would Preston's knockoff be like?
He would be... I don't know.
Well, Preston's pretty adamant about health and exercise, so his guy would be the direct opposite.
Yeah.
He'd be a fat lord. He'd be a glutton, and he'd just be a glutton, and he'd be a couch potato.
He'd probably like
Taco Bell. He wouldn't be critical at all of things that bother him.
Yeah.
He'd be very reserved and passive.
He'd be a yes man. He would like everything. He'd say what everyone wants to hear.
Absolutely.
Which is definitely not what we ever do.
Never. Definitely not.
Never.
No, we really don't, but it is hard for me to get like genuinely upset about something. So it's rare that I get like 100%. Sincerely pissed.
I'm never going to like sit on this episode and be like, hey, I'm going to talk about something and form an opinion
really
that I don't
enrages
believe in.
me. Not that Preston's like that, but Preston has voiced his opinion on things that bother him, certainly.
Sure.
And I've certainly shared his opinion on a lot of things. And I've definitely, there's been things that have, of course, bothered me in the past, but nothing to where I feel like I need to like be too critical of it. I think that'll do it for this week. I have a couple old ones that we can toss into the next episode of Ask IOG.
Yes, for sure. Don't let these good people's questions go to vain.
I shall not. They will be answered. Believe it or not, some of them are over 2 years old. So 2.5 years old. But some of them, believe it or not, are still relevant. So we will get to them. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on episode 210 of the It's Obvious podcast. I had a whole lot of fun talking to Jacob about this stuff. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below on YouTube or on Discord about anything we've discussed. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. I know Jacob and I are looking forward to our lunch date later this week. That's going to be fun.
100%.
I'm sure it's going to wind up on Discord or social media somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be incredibly romantic. So
I cannot wait to have that pizza.
Excited to play some games that are coming up in the fall. And in the meantime, man, we are excited to keep up with you guys on Discord. And of course, join us on social media, Discord. And if you're willing, rate, review, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcast, because it helps us grow. We'd love to grow even more and continue to expand this community. Yep. But that's it for me, Jacob. I had a lovely time with you.
Yep. If you're on YouTube, please leave a like, comment, and even subscribe if you really enjoy the show. If you're on social media, please leave some follow or some likes. Obviously follow if you're not following us on there. If you're on iTunes or Google Play, whatever the Android platform is, be sure to leave a review. It always helps the channel grow, just like Garrett was saying. And also, just a fun little thing for me. Let me know how, those of you that are playing Fire Emblem, let me know how you're still enjoying it, if you are, and how far you've gotten with. Obviously, no spoilers, unless you're in the spoiler channel on our Discord, which is a fun place to be right now because not everyone's not really spoiling it right now. They're just talking about how they're just starting it and how they're enjoying it. So it seems I haven't seen anyone complain about the game so far, so that's exciting, being a fan of it. But yeah, hope you guys have a good week, and we will see you next time.
Yes, sir. You guys have a good one.
Bye-bye.